Fix their gaze on another person's eyes for a few seconds and they will start judging them. Trustworthy, cold, warm, intense. No wonder that most people wouldn't be able to say why exactly they thought this way regarding a certain eye color. They just felt it. Most often, this feeling was attributed to superstitions and myths. Blue eyes, cold; brown eyes, warm. Superstitious beliefs of old women from fortune-telling books rather than scientific papers. But the funny thing is that some of these superstitions are actually true. First, let's figure out what exactly eye color means, as most people get this part wrong. No, there are no blue pigments in blue eyes, nor are there green pigments in green eyes. There is only one pigment responsible for eye color in the human iris: melanin, the same brown-black pigment responsible for skin and hair color. What distinguishes different eye colors is the density of the pigment and its exact placement in the iris. Many melanins tightly packed in the interior layer of the iris will absorb most of the light hitting it, only allowing some longer wavelength photons to pass. Your eye will appear brown. Low density of melanins and their uneven distribution mean that there is nothing for the incoming light to be absorbed by. Consequently, light scatters in a way similar to the scattering in the atmosphere that causes the blue color of the sky, even though there is no blue pigment up there. So your eyes will appear blue. Green or hazel eyes contain some melanin and the same scattering effect. Before going into any personality-related conclusions, remember this mythbuster. Blue eyes are an optical illusion created due to the absence of the pigment, not its presence. Now, there are a couple of other questions to be asked about how the human eye color actually works. Why do babies sometimes appear gray or bluish, changing into brown in a year or two? How can this process lead to the development of heterochromia, different colors in one person? In the simplest terms, the eye color is connected to melanin production in the iris. Melanin starts being produced after the baby is born and continues to accumulate for several years, eventually forming a unique eye shade. Sometimes this process turns out to be asymmetrical in both of the baby's irises, or even in a single eye itself, creating a heterochromatic effect. Now we're getting to something genuinely interesting. The history of humans is characterized by one specific feature. Every one of our ancestors had brown eyes. Yes, there are no records or fossils of humans having any other eye color. For hundreds of thousands of years, every great ape-like creature in existence was brown-eyed. Until about 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, when somewhere close to the Black Sea region, one particular person received a mutated gene in their OCA2 gene. This gene stopped the production of melanin in the iris, causing eye color to change. In the end, every person who has blue eyes now is genetically connected to that very first individual. It may seem exaggerated, but it's not. Scientists tracing back the origin of eye color are convinced that eye color is one of the most recent and traceable mutations in the human DNA structure. For many years, popular science believed in the explanation that was simplified for a high school biology textbook. There are two genes affecting the color, and brown is dominant over blue. However, recent studies revealed more than a dozen genes responsible for eye color. Therefore, a pair of blue-eyed parents could have a child with green eyes or hazel eyes. In the end, the explanation was not incorrect, but highly insufficient to say the least. This brings us to the next logical question. If brown eyes were the default eye color of humans for hundreds of thousands of years, why did this new gene survive for this long? In nature, mutations that do not serve any survival purpose gradually disappear. This is where scientists may introduce another hypothesis, that of sexual selection. A novel feature that is unique and easy to notice in a population can spread through evolution because people prefer it as a partner choice. Peacock's tails or colorful feathers in birds work similarly. They attract the attention of potential partners and increase the chances of reproduction.
If this is the case, then this explains why the gene that apparently brought no evolutionary advantages could thrive. Now we get to a brief note about green-eyed people. They constitute only 2% of people on the planet and have a very specific distribution across the world, primarily in northern and central Europe. Similar to blue eyes, they are caused by the reduced amount of melanin in the iris, but with a trace of additional pigment called lipochromin. Interestingly, this rare combination of pigments allows some researchers to approximate the region of someone's ancestry by eye color alone. Now we move on to an interesting topic. Eye color isn't purely aesthetic. It is directly connected to physiology. In simple words, melanin doesn't only give a certain color to the iris. It filters out UV radiation from the light and helps reduce glare in the eye. As a result, it means that brown-eyed people can better tolerate light environments and sun glare, while blue or green-eyed individuals are less tolerant. Several studies have shown that green or blue-eyed people more frequently reported light-induced discomfort and increased sensitivity to bright daylight. Moreover, these people were found to experience certain eye conditions associated with UV radiation exposure, such as specific types of macular degeneration. In addition to this, some researchers were surprised by a peculiar finding. Patients suffering from chronic conditions such as migraines were observed to occur in higher frequency rates in green or blue-eyed individuals. Of course, nobody claims that this means that eye color affects the likelihood of migraines. Instead, it is believed that increased light sensitivity due to low pigment content is the factor that contributes to increased nervous system activity. On the other hand, there is an advantage of having light eyes too. It turns out that the absence of the filtering agent in the eyes gives light-colored eyed people a bit of an edge when dealing with low-light environment. Visual sensitivity studies show slight superiority of this group when it comes to scotopic vision tests. To sum up, the eye color trade-off seems to be quite simple. Brown eyes are better in high glare conditions, while green and blue are superior in low light environments. Neither of these eye colors are better in any sense, because both of them serve perfectly well for the eyes. Instead, brown eyes are better suited for life in the sun and glare, while light-colored eyes are better for dimmer conditions. Therefore, eye color distribution follows the geography. Light-colored eyes are frequent at high latitudes, where sun rays are weaker and nights longer, while dark eyes prevail closer to the equator, where sunlight is brighter and harsher. So where exactly does the concept of personality come into play? It is important to mention that the idea of eye color affecting people's personality traits is completely unscientific. There is no gene in human DNA that can connect certain personality traits to eye color. Therefore, brown-eyed people won't be warmer, more trustworthy, while blue-eyed people will be more dominant. What can be stated scientifically, however, is that people perceive eye color and form their impression based on this perception. Darker eyes are more likely to be perceived as warmer and more trustworthy. Lighter eyes are more frequently described as intense or dominant. However, this perception is not based on eye color, but on brain's attempts to judge a person based on the first impression formed due to their face and color contrast. But the fun fact about this is that some of these perceptions may become self-fulfilled due to people adapting their behavior to match these expectations. Combining all three elements, the biology, history, and psychology of eye color perception, leads us to one interesting discovery. First of all, our eye color tells us something about our ancestors and the geographic region they belong to. Blue and green eyes appeared only 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. Also, our eye color shows how much sunlight we needed in order to protect our eyes. Dark eyes protect better against UV rays, while light-colored eyes can perceive objects in dim light conditions better. Last but not least, the personality characteristics that people associate with eye color may become reality in certain situations due to constant social perception. In other words, the eye color isn't special. It tells a story about the past and helps us see in the right light.